Blog Talk Radio.
Portland, Oregon has become the epicenter in these last few days since this historic election and the unprecedented election of Donald Trump. So I think that's a good place to start, Greg. What was your initial reaction to this unprecedented election of Donald Trump? So let's start there.
You know, I think that mostly everybody was just sad. Everybody's saddened by the fact that he's going to be our president. I think people were in shock. We were told by the media pretty much forever that he had no chance. And so now we have to organize quickly. And I think these communities that definitely don't support Donald Trump need to insulate themselves from his policies. And our local governments need to pick up the slack of what the federal government won't be doing anymore, such as, you know, getting single-payer health care at the state level, because Obamacare could be ripped away, taking action on climate change even at the state level, as he might get rid of the whole entire EPA, and making sure that we don't bow down to his threats, and we continue for Portland and San Francisco and other cities to be sanctuary cities to refugees and workers from Mexico and such, and from around the world.
Definitely. Now, for the benefit of our listeners, will you tell us and explain what is the Portland Resistance and what's your role or what's your capacity with the Resistance?
So I'm the founder and the spokesperson, and then I'm on our executive committee. And basically, I had been a protester and an activist and working in politics as well in Portland for a long time. And people were basically going to hit the streets regardless, and here in Portland, and they did as soon as he was elected. And so I decided we needed to organize something to where we could try and keep everything peaceful, so where we could have a centralized location and have things organized, and also so that we can make it clear that Donald Trump is going to be our president, and we don't have time to spend our energy trying to stop him from being president. We have to prepare for him being president. People say, why don't you give him a chance? And it's like, that's like saying, if somebody has a gun to your head, do you run, or do you wait and see if there's a bullet in it or not? And we don't have the privilege
right.
to wait and see if there's a bullet in it. We have to prepare as if there is a bullet in it. We don't have time or the privilege to wait and see, because we know how he campaigned, we know what he stands for, and we know what he stood for ever since he was a celebrity, whether he was, with the New York Five that were arrested, and he was writing in the newspaper that they should be executed. They were teens, and then they ended up all being innocent from the lawsuits when back in the day when him and his dad were sued for not renting to people of color. I mean, like, we know what he stands for, and I'm not gonna, stand and let this guy who's a proud sexual assaulter
right.
just run
right.
our country like that. So we need to organize at the state level so we can insulate ourselves from Donald Trump's policies.
Okay, thank you. So I want to ask you now, at first, when the protest was happening on Thursday, so we're talking about Thursday, November the 10th, I understand, that you organized a peaceful resistance and a peaceful march. Now, I saw news reports that you had possibly gone home or separated yourself from it because there is a kind of an anarchistic element or other people that came in and joined the event that were not invited or have some ill intentions. Will you help us understand, what is that group or who is it that's infiltrating the peaceful protest that has ultimately landed in several nights of violence clashing with the Portland police? What exactly is happening?
I think we have to be careful in blaming an entire group or ideology and anarchism for the act of certain individuals. I don't call them anarchists, I call them vandals, because we actually do have a strong anarchist movement here in Portland, and they have been helpful at many times. And we do have different tactics sometimes, but they have been helpful and understand and respect our peaceful tactic. I don't blame that ideology or any group for the acts of individuals. But I think that instead of just but we do have to condemn the violence and the destruction, but that's not enough. We have to think about why is that? Martin Luther King said a riot is the language of the unheard. These people feel unheard. So we need to find a way to channel their energy in a way that they can be heard towards positivity. Instead of just only condemning the violence, we have to talk about why is that there? Why is there so much rage? Why do these people feel left behind? We need to talk about these things, not simply just condemn them. So we do organize peaceful protests on Thursday.
Yes.
We had a protest, and there were certain individuals that were doing things. I considered going home, but I didn't want to leave my people. So we just told people to distance themselves from others that were doing violent acts, and then we kind of redirected our route back to where we had started. I think, we elected a candidate of chaos, and I don't think you can be surprised that now there is chaos. And also I think it's important that we understand that it's not my job or anybody else's job to censor anybody's activism. If you don't like the way that people are expressing themselves, which I do not approve of that way of expressing yourself, then I need to distance myself from them. People say what you should be doing more to stop the violence. I can't direct my people to physically intervene with other people, because while I don't support property being damaged, my number one priority is the safety of individuals. And if I tell people, if you see someone with a baseball bat breaking stuff, go confront them, then it could result in fights in the streets and people getting seriously hurt. So all I can do is direct people to remain peaceful. I can lead by example, and I can lead my people away from any sort of destruction.
Great. And I want to make sure that we get this mentioned on air, that you guys have a GoFundMe page. I'll just give the highlights. It says Portland's Resistance Rebuild Fund. So this is where you are doing your part to help gather some funds to go towards damage and issues that happened that night. Is that correct?
That's correct. And last I checked, I think we raised somewhere around $50,000. Our goal is $100,000. We want to make sure that we have also been volunteering every day, cleaning up the city after things have happened that night from other elements. And then we've been making sure to have people reach out to us if their property or for any reason that they were monetarily or physically or emotionally damaged, so that we can rectify that.
Excellent. Thank you, Greg. I want to talk briefly about Friday the 11th. So I was there present for Friday the 11th. It was my first time covering an event of this nature, so I got to tell you, it was honestly surprising to me in a lot of ways. I have a couple clips. We have about 10 minutes to discuss here. So the first clip right now is a clip that I personally took. This was just prior to the police actually using any type of riot deflating measures. I want you to listen to this announcement from the Portland Police. They had declared at that point that some type of acts of vandalism or mischief had occurred. This crowd that I was standing between was basically on 4th Avenue, between 4th and Jefferson and Washington, rather, about 1,000 strong or so. And basically, at a certain point, I literally witnessed with my own eyes someone from the crowd throwing something like a Molotov cocktail at the police, and it hit them. And before I noticed it, I had hundreds of people running at me. And then just a moment later, there were things like grenades or explosions and flashbangs. It was really jarring, really intense for me. Do you have any feedback on that type of response from the Portland Police? Is that standard? Does this all follow some playbook?
So this is new, not their response, but our response, in that we have thousands of people in the streets. I've been an activist here in Portland for a long time. I've been leading marches, and I think tactics of the police are evolving because they haven't seen this sort of energy before in the streets. And I think that it is horrible that they are doing things like that, because they're only inciting more violence. And I honestly think the more police presence that there is, the more violence that there is. And I think it only instigates. And there's been, every time that they have been making arrests, they've basically been arresting indiscriminately, and not in the charges of not stuck for anybody yet. They're just arresting as a fear tactic, and I don't think that's the way our justice system is supposed to be working. I also don't think you get to try people in the streets and then punish them with grenades or smoke and things like that, because I think there's nothing more patriotic than using your First Amendment right to push for change. And Howard Zinn said protest beyond the sanction of the law is not a departure from democracy, but it's absolutely essential to it. And I think that's important for everybody to realize, including the Portland police.
Sure. And just so that I'm clear with you and with our listeners, yes, it was my first time seeing something like this in the first person, but I was there as a reporter, as a member of the media. There were plenty of others. I saw media that was down, on the ground, between Jefferson and Washington, and then I saw all the KGW, like your typical press corps that was on high ground, and I immediately surmised that they clearly were in a position to bail. It's just that simple. They just wanted to be in a position that if things went south really quickly, that they could bail. Unfortunately, I was in a position where I had hundreds of people and grenades flying at me, so I took a lot of learning lessons from it. But in our last few minutes here, I have a clip from Cameron Witten. So basically, I followed the crowd.
Yeah, I'm actually with Cameron right now.
Okay. So this crowd broke off from that engagement there. I marched down Broadway, and then it looked like they were about to go over the Burnside Bridge, and then this clip.
I'm out here on Morrison Bridge, and we had a shooting that happened, people heard about, and I'm with some other folks who were there and saw what happened. Apparently, other folks recognized the shooters as people who had been involved in some of the demonstrations and saw them visibly damaging property, tagging things, and so people did recognize them for that. I'm safe. The police were able to get the license plate, so thanks for help with decoding that. And the police now have that information, myself and others.
Okay, so from what I understand from this, there was a shooting that happened on the Morrison Bridge, and your friend Cameron is an eyewitness. What can you tell us?
Just that somebody was upset about their car being blocked in traffic and things like that, and so eventually they got out of their car and expressed their anger through violence. I think that it's also important that we understand that the shooter seems to be from a marginalized community, and we need to not just condemn, even though we have to condemn violence, but we have to think of why. Why is this? And I also think we have to be careful about throwing people into our criminal justice system that I don't think is very just.
Are you surprised in any capacity, given, the other events that were transpiring between protesters and the police and the way that that's all been escalating, that there's now been actual gunfire? Does it surprise you?
I'm surprised that this hasn't been worse. This reminds me a lot of what was going on in Bahrain in 2013, and I'm worried about where this is headed, and I think that's why our group needs to help direct energy towards something positive. But at the same time, we have to send a message that this is not normal and this is not okay that Donald Trump is president. And I think that how do we want to go down in the history books for a Donald Trump presidency? Do we want to go down as an America that accepted this and let this man become the leader of the free world with no resistance? Or do we want to go down historically as resisting the worst president ever?
Are you satisfied with the level of cooperation or involvement that your group has seen from the mayor and Portland police? I noticed that the tone appears to be changing as of their press conference yesterday. They're basically saying the time for protest is over. Does it look like they're just sort of over it at this point?
I don't collaborate with the police whatsoever, and I'm not going to. I have a long history of dealing with the Portland police and protesting against them. We had an incident on October 12th where they beat hundreds of men, women, and children, disabled and elderly people out of City Hall so they could pass corrupt police union contract. And I used to be meeting with the mayor on a regular basis, and ever since then I have no words for the mayor. And I'm not willing to negotiate or talk to the mayor because I have no respect for his morals after I saw him beat women, children, and disabled people. And I also don't work with the police. So I don't care what they say. I think that right now we need to build community, and that's not the police's job. That's my job. They can do whatever they need to do or want to do. I'm going to protect my people and protect my community and insulate ourselves from Donald Trump's policy. And if they want to choose the side of Donald Trump, then they're part of the problem too.
Understood. All right, Greg, thanks. So we're down to the final 2 minutes. What is your group's plan for today and going forward in 2 minutes?
So we have a meeting going on right now where we're kind of just organizing our structure and things like that. Obviously, this all popped off really quickly, yet we were able to raise $50,000, and we have over 11,000 likes on the Portland's Resistance Facebook page. And so we need to organize. But today we're holding just a vigil for the person that was shot, for the individuals that have been arrested by the Portland police recently, and also for the people that are going to be most affected by a Donald Trump presidency. So we're going to have a candlelight vigil today at the Portland waterfront. It's not a protest. It's not a rally. It's community building.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate your efforts, and I just want to make it clear that we have been illustrating in all of our tweets and representation that you have been organizing peaceful events, and we want to make sure that that message is clear, that any dissent from that is not sanctioned or authorized by you. We just want to also pass along the word that we're here. We're starting up as a new news organization. If anyone from your groups or anyone you talk to wants to get an added voice, we'd be more than happy to have them on our show.
That would be excellent. I'll spread the word.
Thank you for coming on the show, Greg, and good luck.
Of course, anytime. Thank you for having me. And everybody, please like the Portland's Resistance Facebook page. And if you have the privilege and ability and opportunity to, we would appreciate you donating to our GoFundMe so we can help rebuild our city.
Okay, we'll include the link. Thank you. Good luck, Greg.
Thank you.